government shutdown moves into day 36. It's the longest in U.S. history.
This is incredible. I remember when we were talking about it at the beginning, it kind of all the prognostications were it's not going to, it shouldn't last this long.
Right.
I don't think most of these things wrap up within a couple of weeks or so, but now we're in record-setting territory, and it is not a good thing for the air traffic controllers around the country.
That's right. That's right. Both them and TSA agents, they're working without pay. And now there's news that the Department of Transportation could be forced to shut down the airspace in certain parts of the country.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't either. One person that probably knows a little bit more about this is Heather McNevin. She's a former air traffic controller and a professor of aviation at Minnesota State. Heather, welcome to the afternoon shift. How are you?
Happy to be back. I just wish it was under better circumstances.
I know. We got to get you back under better circumstances. Can you tell us what is this all about? Can the government shut down airspace? That's possible?
Yeah, so it's a little bit misleading. It's something that actually happens all the time. So we talked before, air traffic control is a balance between volume and complexity. So if I have a lot of airplanes, they have to be kind of in a straight line, and they shouldn't be doing like very complex things, lots of altitude changes and turns. Maybe I can have 30 airplanes in a line. But if I have airplanes that are going in all different directions and there's a lot more complexity to the operation, I can handle less volume. So if we look at things like the East Coast, they have a lot of volume. There's a lot of airplanes coming from overseas, from all along the East Coast, from the rest of the country, so they can't handle a lot of complexity. For that reason, we start sequencing for JFK, Newark, LaGuardia, and Teterboro over North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, that area. So we start getting them in line to land half a country away to balance volume and complexity. Now, these are tools that we use all the time, and traffic management is a whole group of controllers that look to balance and make sure that the NAS is running as efficiently as possible. Sometimes, due to risks or mitigation, to mitigate the risks, they have to mitigate by reducing volume at an airport. That could be due to weather, or it could be due to some other factors, construction. So we can reduce volume, we can close airspace if needed, and it's something that it's done all the time. It's just now you as the general public are being a lot more aware of it. And my guess is, since it was mentioned by the Secretary of Transportation, that is probably going to be a lot more widespread than what we're generally used to seeing. But it is a normal traffic flow program or traffic flow mitigation.
I believe I read Duffy saying earlier that the FAA warned that there could be a lot more people forced to call out of work, not be in work, because a lot of these guys are on their second missed paycheck now, and it's just not safe, and they're going to have to start shutting down more of these airspaces. What do you think is kind of like the ripple effect of this across the country? Because we've already been seeing mass delays in airports all around the United States.
Yeah, we normally see some issues because we're at a 30-year staffing low. So the time to hire controllers was a couple decades ago, and to be very diligent with it since then, that didn't happen. So we're already tight on staffing. So when you add in these extra stressors like a shutdown, that causes all these additional problems, and all of a sudden we don't have enough bodies to safely run the airspace. When we can't do that, we can't just let everybody go. It just doesn't work that way. There's too much risk in the system. So that's where we have to say, okay, this isn't going to work. We have to shut this airspace down, whether this airspace be a certain airport, or it might be a certain region in the sky based on, it might be an en route facility. But I watch the traffic flow programs every day, and I've never seen as many staffing triggers as I saw a couple days ago. In 18 years of controlling. So it's definitely potentially very interesting. And like I said last time, people, if they're stressed, you don't want them working traffic. So they're going to call in sick, because if they're stressed, their mind isn't in it, and it's a inherently risky operation. And there are hundreds of people on board each aircraft. So if they don't feel like they can perform up to the job, they're going to call in sick.
Heather, I guess to that point, you have a lot of people, because so many people are calling in sick. they're doing 2 jobs at once right now, and that includes TSA agents. Just yesterday at LaGuardia Airport, there was a bomb scare on a Delta plane coming from LGA to MSP. Our own Fox 9 host Jason Matheson was on that plane. It proved to be okay, but how safe would you say our skies are and our airports are right now, given the fact that there are a lot of people that are doing 2 jobs really for one because there's so many absences?
Yeah, there's stress in the system, and just keeps adding more and more stress. And that's why you're going to see delays and closures and things like that, is to try and mitigate things so that they're to a manageable level. So if we're missing a bunch of controllers, well, then we're going to have to maybe reduce flow through that airspace or cause massive delays through that airspace, to try and keep everything to a safe level that the controllers that are present can handle. So you're probably going to see a lot of delays. It's going to be a lot of stress on people. And you've got people that are working not just to cover for missing coworkers, but you have people that may be working a second job to try and make ends meet. I did see that in the last shutdown. People would drive Uber or do DoorDash or something after work and then get a few hours of sleep and come back. And that added a lot of stress, and it added some risk into the system.
Now I'm curious. I'm assuming that there's like unions and stuff like this that have discussions about this. But like, are air traffic controllers, are they like able to strike if they wanted to? Is this a thing that could happen?
They are not able to strike as federal employees. It's against the law. In 1981, there was a professional air traffic controllers organization, the Air Traffic Control Union of the time, and they had very similar issues that we're facing today. They had staffing shortages, they had antiquated equipment, and they were saying they're working too many hours, they're not getting enough pay, this is problematic. They talked to President Reagan, he said he would work with them, and he didn't, so they went on strike. And President Reagan said, you have 48 hours to get back to work or you'll be fired. And about 11,000 controllers or so, more than 11,000 were fired, and they were barred from federal service for life. And that was the majority of our air traffic controllers, which actually set up the cyclical staffing system that we're struggling with today because of all those massive firings. We had massive hirings, and then those people worked 20 years, and then we have another staffing low, and we just kind of have that cycle going year over year. But after PATCO was disbanded, NATCA, which is the current air traffic controllers union, was created, and now they trying to work collaboratively with the FAA and make sure that everything's safe and get things done. But unfortunately, air traffic controllers are not allowed to strike.
Heather, you were around during the last government shutdown. We've been talking about potential strikes and getting payments getting missed. Are these people, are they going to get paid? These CSA and air traffic control agents, they will get paid. They will be back paid for all their work, correct?
They should get their back pay. There was a issue with getting some people certain back pay, so you get paid extra for like working on Sunday, or if you're training somebody, you get training pay. It's called differential pay. And some of that didn't get worked out correctly, and some of the overtime that was during the last shutdown didn't get worked out correctly until actually about a couple months ago. So it was a very long lawsuit situation to try and correct the pay errors. For the bulk of the pay, it was correct, but there were some problems. So they should be getting all of the pay that they're due at some point in the future.
This might be a stupid question, Heather, but say it's around this time, next month, and we're still having these discussions about the government shutdown. Is there a chance that we just have, little to no flights?
I mean, you can only work for an IOU for so long, and people have families to feed, they have bills to pay, and after a while, it's not going to work anymore. People won't be able to show up for an IOU, so they'll call out sick. I've actually seen a lot of people saying that they're reconsidering this work and maybe leaving to do a different job. So we're going to have further attrition in a already short-staffed, critical staffing situation where it takes 2 to 5 years to train a new person to replace them. So this is making the system worse in the long run and the short term.
It's scary. And Max, I know you mentioned you got Thanksgiving just a couple weeks away.
Right.
Obviously, you mentioned doing this next month. You got the Christmas, the holiday season,
sure.
everything. A lot of people traveling. Heather, what should people know if they're heading to the airport? Maybe for a weekend getaway this week or next week, or even looking ahead to Thanksgiving. What are some tips you'd give to travelers?
So Thanksgiving is actually like right around that time, right before Thanksgiving is one of our busiest times as air traffic controllers. There's a ton of flights. The actual holiday itself is usually pretty quiet. There's not a whole lot of flights going through. Flights are still going. And I would say to have a lot of patience because you may be getting delayed. There may be cancellations. The FAA doesn't cancel flights. They would just say there's this much delay, and then the airline would choose, do we wait or do we cancel this flight? And there's also a website. It's I think it's nasstatus.gov that you can go online and look at the delays for different airports and see, if there's like a 6-hour delay or something, you can see that in real time.
Well, we appreciate you for joining us today, Heather, and obviously we will hope that all those air traffic controllers out there the government can reopen and they can get the money that they have rightfully and dutifully earned because they're doing all the important work out there, and we got to get those guys paid.
No doubt.